Diddy is the one that told him personally that he slept with Usher and Stevie J.
Well, I mentioned that earlier. That he said about Stevie J. The Usher part, that's a touchy situation, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a certain feeling, and I felt a certain way when Usher got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Shay Shay and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business, right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you, you gonna give him a pass? Bro, you know I know. Let me reframe you on something. Remember Usher? We was at the Swiss Hotel. Puff had Kim in the room. Had one of Keith Sweat's baby mothers in the big room outside the master bedroom. He came outside in his robe. She gave him a fellatio right there. His back was turned to me. She gave him a fellatio. You knocked on the door. I came and opened the door for you. Puff went in the room. You came in the room and kissed that girl dead in her mouth. Now I'm telling that because you taking up for somebody that you know and a lot of more people know didn't do you right when you was at Diddy camp. When you was at
What's poppin', y'all? It's your girl B, and welcome back to my channel. And if you have not already, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that all button and the notifications so you know when some more tea is coming your way.
Alright, teammates, so this video is going to be the part 2 of the P. Diddy lawsuit paperwork. If you have not already and you're just now tuning in, go back because that was the beginning of the paperwork. This is part 2, okay? Again, if you're just now tuning in, go back to part 1. This is part 2. So let's get right into it, alright? So where we left off last, it had to do with the sex worker allegation. All right, so line 95. Mr. Jones had no desire to solicit or have sex with the individual in the previous paragraphs. Mr. Combs used his power and influence to intimidate and force Mr. Jones into soliciting and sleeping with the individuals above. So, again, this is the part where I'm just like, it sounds like what you're trying to say is that he used his power to peer pressure you into doing this. And I don't know how that is a crime. But I mean, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But let's keep going. Mr. Combs used many tactics to maintain dominion and control over Mr. Jones. He promised him a Grammy for Producer of the Year for the Love album. He offered him $25,000 to purchase all the instruments he wanted. He promised him ownership of his $20 million property, One Star Island in Miami, Florida. He promised him access to record label executives like defendants Lucien Charles Grange and Ethiopia. Mr. Combs would often switch up his approach. He would go from promising Mr. Jones the world to threatening Mr. Jones with physical harm. Mr. Jones threatened to eat Mr. Jones' face and informed Mr. Jones that he is willing to kill his mother, Janice Combs, if he must, in order to get what he wants, so he wouldn't think twice to harm Mr. Jones. Fuck. Damn, so he's pretty much saying, like, this dude is cutthroat. Like, he has threatened me. He pretty much said, like, if I'm willing to kill my own mom, you think that I won't kill you? Apparently, he's using these tactics to get people to listen. Crazy. Okay, so Mr. Combs and Jay Combs solicits. So Mr. Combs and his son Justin Combs solicits drugs and engaged in Mr. Combs and Jay Combs, aka his son Justin, solicits drugs and engaged in illicit sex acts with minors and sex workers. Okay. So on or about July 2nd, 2023 in California, Mr. Combs had a listening party at his home. Present at this party was R&B artist, which we already were talking about this before. I believe this was Usher, Justin Combs, some sex workers, and some underage girls. The event began at 7 p.m. Mr. Combs requested female sex workers and required Mr. Jones to solicit them. An hour later, several sex workers appeared. In addition to sex workers, there was at least 5 women in the crowd that were under the age of 16. Mr. Combs forced all the women to drink laced DeLeon liquor. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs laced the liquor with ecstasy. Mr. Combs did not check the identification of these underage girls. The presence of these underage women made Mr. Jones very uncomfortable. He attempted to leave, and Mr. Combs forced him to stay. Mr. Combs went so far as to take Mr. Jones' car keys to prevent him from leaving. After being forced to drink laced DeLeon shots, Mr. Jones began feeling lightheaded and recalls passing out and waking up at 4 a.m. the following morning naked with a sex worker sleeping next to him. Screenshots of a video from that night is embedded below. This is crazy. Lord. Let's see. This is crazy, but like, how could you know for sure that they're underage? Like, if you were to hire a group of sex workers and there's 12 of them, 3 of them are underage, how would you know? I mean, you can say, oh, you guys look young, but how would you know? I'm assuming that if you're hiring something like that, like a group of sex workers, you as the person hiring them probably would be assuming that all of them are of age. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just a thought. Okay, so Mr. Combs attempts to pass off Mr. Jones to Cuba Gooding Jr. This is wild, okay? And I know, y'all know who Cuba Gooding Jr. is, right? You know who this is? You know? He's been in a whole bunch of movies, but the only one that anybody really remembers him from is Radio. Yeah. All right. Mr. Jones believes that Mr. Combs was grooming him to pass him off to his friends, which we've heard this in the past as well. We've heard that he gets people to kind of be okay with doing something with somebody else. And a lot of times they say that he watches. Like, just weird. Okay, let's keep going. This fear became a reality when Mr. Combs introduced Mr. Jones to Cuba Gooding Jr. while they were on Mr. Combs' yacht. During the introduction, Mr. Combs suggested that Cuba get to know Mr. Jones better. He then left them alone in a makeshift studio on the yacht. Okay, so here's a picture, Diddy and Cuba Gooding Jr., and I'm just curious as to why every single one of these pictures is this lighting. Like, is this just the way this is being shown, or is Diddy just weird and likes to have red lights on and everything? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, weird. Alright, so as evidenced by video, of which screenshots are embedded below, Cuba Gooding Jr. began touching, groping, and fondling Mr. Jones' legs, his upper inner thighs near his groin, the small of his back near his buttocks, and his shoulders. Okay, that's very specific spots, and that's fucking weird. And again, these are screenshots on these, like on these documents, but they said they have a video. Like, let's not forget about it. They said they have a video. So this is not no speculation. There is a video of Cuba Gooding Jr. touching, groping, fondling all up on Mr. Jones. Okay? So there's no saying, oh, the picture can be taken, like, you know, the picture, it can be misconstrued. No, there's a video. All right, let's keep going. Mr. Jones was extremely uncomfortable and proceeded to lean away from Mr. Gooding Jr. He rejected his advances, and Mr. Gooding Jr. did not stop until Mr. Jones forcibly pushed him away. The following is a screenshot of the encounter with Cuba Gooding Jr. That's so funny because, like, the way that he says it, and then there's this picture. This picture does not look like that to me. I mean, it looks like he might be thinking something else in his mind than what he's thinking, but doesn't look like a situation where he's like really rubbing on him and he was about to push him away, looking and feeling uncomfortable. It just doesn't look like that here. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just saying, like, the pictures that they have to match is like crazy. Obviously, I understand he probably didn't get photos and videos of when these encounters actually happened. So just proof that, you know, they were on the yacht together is, I guess, good enough proof for law enforcement. Throughout his time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones was under the implied work for hire agreement. He was not compensated for his time living with Mr. Combs or for the songs he produced. That's crazy. As evidence, he was listed as a producer for the following songs on the Love album: Final Release, Deliver Me, Stay Part 1, Reaching, What's Love, Stay a While, Moments, Need Somebody, Homecoming, and Tough Love. Mr. Combs and defendants all benefited from Mr. Jones' work product. They failed to compensate Mr. Jones for his work. As a result, Mr. Combs and the defendants were all unjustly enriched at the expense of Mr. Jones. So pretty much they used him and didn't pay him nothing. Mr. Jones attempted to work with Mr. Combs to secure his publishing and royalty rights for the work he compiled on the Love album. Mr. Combs only offered Mr. Jones $29,000 for 13 months, thousands of hours of work, and 9 songs that made it to the Love album. Ironically, Mr. Jones was willing to take $50,000, his publishings and royalties. Mr. Combs' self-serving greed would not allow him to pay Mr. Jones an additional $21,000. So pretty much he's like, 29 is all I'm giving you and that's it. Which, maybe if he would have just paid him his money, which clearly this isn't even what he's saying he was owed for what he did. If you would have just gave him the $50,000, P. Diddy, none of this would be happening. Because I guarantee you, if he would have got paid, he would have just took his little weird experiences and never came back and worked with you ever again. But instead, you didn't pay him his money. So now he mad. I mean, hey, this is what happens. Everything will come back to you. Should have just paid that man. All right. Mr. Combs' deceptive business practices became so bad that Mr. Jones was left with no choice other than to make a public plea on social media for Mr. Combs to pay him for his work. That's crazy. That's like some little kid shit. After publicly requesting that Mr. Combs do the right thing and pay him fairly, Mr. Jones received an onslaught of threatening messages from Stevie J and Love Records A&R DeForest Taylor. That's crazy. Okay. You playing I'm in the studio. You 100% liar. Where the good luck. Number still. What? These messages just scream some weird like nigga that just be running his mouth like barely can even spell, like just talking shit on the other side. Boy, bye. Okay. Mr. Combs used his power and influence to threaten and intimidate Mr. Jones. All right. So according to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs is very forceful and demanding. According to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs is very forceful and demanding. He does not take no for an answer and would often threaten to inflict bodily harm on Mr. Jones if he did not comply with his demands. As detailed above, Mr. Combs threatened to eat Mr. Jones' face. Like, what? Are you a cannibal now? Like, why is that a thing? That really was said. Like, that's crazy. On another occasion, while standing in Mr. Combs' bedroom, Mr. Jones was forced to watch as Mr. Combs displayed his guns and bragged about getting away with shooting people. I don't know about, again, like, I don't know if he forced him to do that, but he probably was just like, come look at my guns. Like, the way they word some of this stuff, like, you're just stretching it to be more than what it probably was. Like, did he hold a gun to your head and say, come over here and look at my guns or I'm gonna kill you? No. Y'all are probably just kicking it and he was like, oh, my nigga, look at all these guns. I done shot hella people with these guns. Crazy though. Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for shooting in the nightclub in New York City with rapper Shine. Diddy's former bodyguard accuses the rapper of snitching on Shine over 1999 shooting. As the story goes, bad boy artist Shine was jailed for attempted murder and assault and reckless endangerment charges after a shooting incident in a New York club. That's crazy. So pretty much he is the one who went to jail for it, but they're saying Diddy's the one who did it. Or I guess he's saying that Diddy said he's the one who did it. And it's crazy because this bodyguard, I don't know how he's still around or why he's still out talking, because according to everybody else, the moment people start talking, that's when some shit happens to them or they get threats, they disappear, whatever. And this bodyguard been telling it all for a while now. He shared that artist and Mr. Combs' girlfriend at that time, Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. Oh God, see, now they bringing J-Lo in it. Oh Lord. Now, so she had the gun And then some shit popped off, and he pretty much was like, "Hey, babe, give me my gun," and she gave it to him, and he shot somebody. That's what it sounded like happened. Oh, this is crazy. And they were arrested. Says Diddy and Jennifer Lopez were arrested and charged Monday with criminal possession of a weapon after a gun was illegally found in their car as they left probably a nightclub. The shooting in Chalice Recording Studios confirmed Mr. Combs' statements. These statements reinforced Mr. Jones' fear of Mr. Combs and threatened Mr. Combs' dominion and control over Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones was terrified of Mr. Combs. He felt like he could not tell him no. Mr. Combs consistently made it clear that he is an immense power in the music industry and with law enforcement. Mr. Combs made it clear that he is head of security. Mr. Muhammad had the power to make people and problems disappear. Okay. And that is the one that they said if there was ever an issue, this is who they call, is this guy. He apparently, like you said, makes all the problems disappear. He's the go-to. And he looks very young. I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised, but it's just like, if he's the go-to and he's that deep, like I wonder what he did to get that deep into this type of circle. I don't know. Mr. Combs instructs his staff to always contact Mr. Muhammad if they are ever pulled over by the police in Miami or California. Upon information and belief, Mr. Muhammad spoke with the LAPD after G was shot at CRS, which is the recording studio. The LAPD was at the recording studio and witnessed the blood in the restroom, and they went with the bogus claim that the shooting of G occurred outside of the studio. Oh, that's crazy. This was all thanks to Mr. Muhammad's connections with law enforcement. So they're saying that the cops even went inside and saw that the occurrence clearly happened in the bathroom, and because of their connections, they still went forward with that lie. That's just so crazy to me, how there can be that many corrupt people in law enforcement and in stuff like that, to where I mean it's sad to say money talks, and I mean I know anybody can be bribed in that type of sense, or with power or money, whatever. So I get that, but it's still crazy to me how easy it happened, how easily and how common it happens. All right, so Mr. Jones had no reason to disbelieve Mr. Combs, as he had seen firsthand through the shooting of G and the subsequent silence of the LAPD and the media that Mr. Combs indeed had the power to harm him. LAPD spent hours in the recording studio after shooting of G, and yet there were no arrests. Mr. Jones witnessed the LAPD in the restroom, yet no arrests were made. The morning after the shooting, Mr. Jones and several others arrived at the recording studio, and G's blood was still on the floor of the restroom, and Mr. Combs hired a cleaning crew to clean it up. That's just crazy. Like, the cops were all up and through there for hours, and they still put on the news that it was a drive-by. Like, how did they get away with that? Defendants Ethiopia and Lucian, Motown Records, Love Records, and Universal Music Group aided, embedded, and profited off of Sean Combs' RICO enterprise. So pretty much all of those are profiting off of. I mean, that makes sense. I guess that's how they included them into this lawsuit. Because I mean, they all work with him. They work under him. They work for him. So pretty much, yeah. they're helping him do what he's doing. That's exactly what they're saying. But this is the proof. Okay, so Mr. Jones recalls seeing defendant Lucian Grange visiting Mr. Combs' home in Miami, Florida, and in LA. Let's see. According to Mr. Jones, whenever defendant Grange visited Mr. Combs at his homes, it would be in the evening, and he and Mr. Combs would disappear for hours in Mr. Combs' bedroom. That's weird. Like, why did you have to say in the bedroom? And I'm just still trying to figure out how this man was around that much. I'm still trying to figure out how this man was around that much to where he can pull up an occasion that he can remember multiple times that this man has come to your house at night and went to your room. Like, how does he know these things? Like, he was really there that much? This is crazy. All right, come on. Defendant Grange sponsored and attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' home in LA, California. These parties were sponsored by sponsored by all of the record companies. As evidence above, these parties had sex workers and underage girls present. During these parties, defendant Grange knew, or should have known, that Mr. Combs was drugging the attendees through laced bottles of De Leon tequila and Ciroc vodka. And, I mean, not that he should have known, but, again, not that it's the fact that I'm saying, yeah, he should have known, but he's so involved that I doubt he didn't know that he was doing stuff like that. So, I mean, I could see why they would assume this, you know? All right, so let's keep going. It is no secret that Mr. Combs had specific bottles of alcohols designated for females and other bottles designated for his staff, his artists, and himself. This fact was detailed by a former artist and bodyguards of Mr. Combs. That's crazy. So clearly they had specific bottles that were designated for the girls because they were laced and trying to drug them. As a sponsor of these events, defendant Grange had a duty and obligation to ensure that sex workers and underage girls were not present and that Mr. Combs was not spiking the alcohol with date rape drugs. On YouTube channel The Art of Dialogue, former bodyguard Gene Deal exposed Mr. Combs' pill mixing method. So again, this is that bodyguard I was talking about that's been putting all his business out there. He exposed his pill mixing method used to spike cranberry juice and orange juice. According to Mr. Deal, Mr. Combs would place ecstasy and other date rape drugs in the juices. On YouTube, The Art of Dialogue, former artist Mark Curry exposes Mr. Combs spiking bottles of Moet champagne in the VIP section of nightclubs. That's crazy. He's even drugging these girls out and about. Like, what the fuck? He has no remorse. Mr. Combs would have a set of Moet. What the fuck? Mr. Combs would have a set of Moet champagne bottles for his artists and a set for his women. Yeah, because he had half of them drugged. That shit is crazy. This writer has spoken with several former employees of Mr. Combs who witnessed the defendant Coram instruct her staff to lace champagne, De Leon, and Ciroc liquor bottles with ecstasy and other illicit drugs. So that's that lady, what was her name? KK. Yeah, that's KK. So pretty much they're saying that she's very involved and she's instructed the staff to drug people, pretty much. Like, that's what Diddy wants, so put it in there. Mr. Jones recalls seeing defendant Habtemariam visiting Mr. Combs' home in Miami, Florida, and in Los Angeles. According to Mr. Jones, whenever defendant Habtemariam visited Mr. Combs at his homes, it would be in the evening as well, and she and Mr. Combs would disappear for hours in Mr. Combs' bedroom. Okay, so he just keeps taking these people to his room, but that necessarily does not mean that they're doing weird, freaky stuff in there. I mean, maybe that's where he like that's his office, you know? Maybe. Okay, I don't know. Let's go. According to Mr. Jones, defendant Habtemariam visited Mr. Combs at defendant studio during Mr. Combs' writing camp. She sponsored and attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' home in LA, California. These parties were sponsored by the defendants, so all the recording studios and the labels. Not the recording studios, but the labels. As evidence above, these parties had sex workers and underage girls present. So pretty much she's around while this is going on too. During these parties, defendant Habtemariam knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was drugging these attendees through the lace bottles. So same thing as, Lucian, same thing. Like, you guys were there constantly, so there's no reason why you shouldn't have been keeping track of this or making sure this wasn't happening. There's no reason why you guys didn't know, which is true. I agree. As a sex worker, as a sponsor of these events, defendant Habtemariam had duty and obligation to ensure that sex workers and underage girls were not present and that he wasn't spiking the liquor. So yeah, same thing. All right. Defendant Christina Coram is the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein. That's creepy. And that's crazy because I was just saying that, like, KK orchestrates a lot of stuff. Like, she allows a lot of this to happen, and literally, like they just said, she is one of the people that literally says, yeah, drug those drinks, give them some drugs. Like, the fact that, like, these women, I don't know if it's because they're in a position of power or what, but for you to allow a man and to help a man do creepy, disgusting stuff to other people, to other girls, especially to other women, and you as a woman, like, you are just the lowest of low. And seriously, like, men, I'm not gonna say I could take it from them, but people like Diddy, people like Jeffrey Epstein, I expect that from fucking creepy old ass dudes. Like, I get it, I expect that. But for a woman, like, you're letting this man drug poor underage girls. You're letting this man take advantage of underage girls and helping bring them in. Like, girl. According to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed Mr. Combs display and distribute guns from his bedroom closet in Miami, Florida, and in Los Angeles, California, to questionable individuals dressed in all black. So he was handing out guns to men in black, okay? It is a little weird, but hey. According to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed KK openly order her assistants to keep Mr. Combs high off of gummies and pills. Shay, he's probably a nicer person. But KK is a piece of work. She is a big part of this. Defendant KK required all employees from the butler, the chef, to the housekeepers to walk around with a pouch or a fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana gummies, a tookie, a pink drug that is a combination of ecstasy and cocaine. What? I'm at loss. Like, I'm literally speechless. You required your chef to wear a fanny pack filled with pills and cocaine and shit? Like, what? So just in case he wants it, it's ready? That's crazy if he's really doing that much drugs. I've never heard anything like that. It is important to KK to have Mr. Combs' drug of choice immediately ready when he asks for it. And that is exactly what I just said. That is just wild. KK ordered sex workers and prostitutes for Mr. Combs. She ordered and distributed ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms to Mr. Combs and his celebrity guests who were present on his rented yacht and in his homes in LA, New York City, and Miami. On multiple occasions, defendant KK forced Mr. Jones to carry Mr. Combs' drug pouch against his will. So she just was making him carry the drugs. Like, hold this. As the chief of staff, defendant KK was instrumental in organizing and executing the RICO enterprise. KK had the following individuals execute the following tasks for the RICO enterprise. So this is what she made people do for, or handle, I guess. Which is so, like, crazy how she's doing this. Like, she literally is orchestrating. Like, she's the boss, pretty much. She literally is helping him run it. Like, that's the definition of what they're saying. Like, girl, you're done, is pretty much what I'm saying. Okay, so let's see. She had the following individuals execute the following tasks. So Stevie J, which he's been defending Diddy like crazy on social media, and obviously it's for this reason. Not because you're loyal, but because if Diddy goes down, you go down, Stevie J. So apparently she had Stevie J recruit sex workers and attends and participates in the freak-offs. Clearly, that's true because there was the video of him messing with the white boy. Okay, his son, Justin Combs, solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers, would engage in freak-offs. Definitely can see that because he's the young guy. You know, he's young, he's cool, bring the girls. That's his job. Like, I can see that. Brendan Paul, so that's the guy that got arrested with cocaine before they got on the plane. Works as Mr. Combs' mule. Clearly that's true as well. He acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns. That's wild. Brendan Paul and Mr. Combs. So this is the one who usually has his drugs. Frankie Santella works alongside Brendan while Brendan acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns. Frankie carries the money and pays for the drugs and the guns. So they're very specific about it. That's for sure. Moy Bon hires sex workers, attends and participates in freak-offs. Oh my goodness. So this is him, Thanksgiving, when Mr. Combs offered Mr. Jones cocaine. Mr. Combs funded and used his affiliation and local gangs and gang leaders who would frequent his homes in LA and Miami to secure the drugs and guns he obtained and distributed out of his homes in LA and Miami. So pretty much he's just saying he knew local gangs and motherfuckers in the streets of LA and Miami, and they help him get the drugs. And clearly his bro, Brennan, is it Brennan or Brandon? Brendan. Apparently his bro Brandon and such are the ones who go get it. All right, so defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of violence, threatening to eat plaintiff's face, displaying and distributing guns in presence, bragging about having law enforcement under control, bragging about murdering people, and about bragging about bribing witnesses and jurors in the criminal case concerning 1999 New York City nightclub shooting with Shine. This defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of isolation from the music and entertainment industry, parading powerful music industry executives such as defendants Lucian Grange, Ethiopia, Habtemiriam at his parties filled with sex workers, minors, illegal drugs such as ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. He had it all. Defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of non-payment for work completed, fake promises of cash payments, the $250,000, producer of the year with the Grammy Awards, and guaranteed access to future projects, and a $20 million home on Star Island in Miami. While living, Mr. Combs is allowed to wreak havoc. What is that supposed to mean? Oh my goodness. Oh Lord, y'all. Let's go. Let's find out. While living and traveling with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones discovered that Mr. Combs has hidden cameras in every room of his house. Okay, this is what they said when they raided his homes. This is what they said they were looking for, is these cameras. Because they're like, okay, you got cameras in every room of your house. You've got to have footage. So they were going to get guns from him, if I'm not mistaken, and these cameras or the footage from the cameras. Mr. Jones believes that Mr. Combs has recordings of defendants Lucian Grange, Ethiopia Habtemiriam, as well as other celebrities, music label executives, politicians, and athletes. Upon information and belief, these individuals were recorded without their knowledge and consent, and as in the case with the homosexual tape of Stevie J that Mr. Combs provided to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties. So pretty much, he's got compromising footage of every person. So that's a way that they say that, like, he uses that as a tactic. He's got everybody on camera doing something that they wouldn't want somebody finding out that they're doing, whether that be messing with underage girls, doing drugs, messing with a sex worker, whatever the case may be. They don't want anybody to find out. And Diddy gets these people on camera, gets them on recording, and he blackmails them. That's been the story that's been told over and over again. So clearly there's got to be some truth to it. Upon information and belief, due to this treasure trove of evidence he has in his possession, Mr. Combs believes that he is above the law and is untouchable. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs employs Jose Cruz as his IT director. This writer has spoken to several former employees of Mr. Combs who confirm that Jose Cruz is the gatekeeper to all of Mr. Combs' recordings. So his IT director, pretty much they're saying he's got all the footage. Upon information and belief, Jose Cruz intentionally hides behind the camera and from social media and the internet due to all the incriminating acts he was required to record for Mr. Combs. That's crazy. He's like, I don't want anybody to find out about this. First cause of action, conduct and participate in RICO enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, violation of Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act. It's long as fuck, y'all. Let's just get it. As a respondent, let's see. reference all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as if set forth fully heard. As respondent superior, defendants Lucian and Ethiopia, Combs, Global, Motown Records, Love Records, Universal, are 100% liable for the actions of Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Coram, as they were acting in their capacities as the respondent superior collectives employees when they committed the acts detailed below. The respondent superior collective failed to adequately monitor, warn, and supervise the actions of Sean Combs, Justin Combs, and Christina Coram. So they literally, that's what's like blowing my mind too, is like they're wrapping Justin, his son, into it like he's his right hand man or something. And obviously, I just really don't think that's the case. It's obviously just one of his sons, and he probably just is in on the bullshit half the time. I just don't see him being this evil master manipulator, something like that. I don't see that. Defendants are individuals or entities within the meaning of person. It's just saying what they are and who they are. Section 1962 makes it unlawful for any person who has received any income derived directly, indirectly, pattern of racketeering activity, or through a collection of an unlawful debt in which such as a person participated as a principal within the meaning of Section 2. So pretty much people who got money indirectly from some illegal stuff. Okay. Defendants have unlawfully increased their profits by luring, deceiving producers, musicians, writers, creators, artists such as plaintiff to transport drugs, transport firearms, solicit minors, exotic dancers, sex workers to utilize their talents and labor to produce music, other tangible goods, services without compensation. So they're doing all this, it's illegal, they're doing all this for you, and it's not even for money. Like, they're doing it for free? Or are they just saying, like, they didn't end up getting compensated, but they should have? Like, you just wasn't paying them. The RICO enterprise, which all defendants have engaged in, the activities which affected interstate and foreign commerce, is comprised of an association, in fact, of persons, including each defendant. This makes no sense. Okay, so pretty much all of this stuff is just reiterating, like, summarizing, this is why. So, this is just really crazy, you guys. Like, the more you hear, like, the more stories you hear, the more details, it's, like, mind-blowing. Like, you just don't expect something like this from people that you're watching for years and years and years and years and years, and when it happens and it's unfolding in front of us, half of y'all still don't believe it, and I need to know. Like, comment down below, what do you guys think? Do you think that this is all just because of something else, and this is deeper than what it is, and the Diddy's like a fall guy? Or do you think this man is just another disgusting creep? Oh my gosh, and it's just so, it just it makes my skin crawl. Oh my goodness. Okay, seriously, y'all, this was part 2. This was part 2 of the P. Diddy lawsuit paperwork. Thank y'all for tuning in. Like I said, y'all, this is long, okay? And right now, it's just getting into a lot of gibberish, so we gonna stop it right here, okay? And comment down below, what do y'all think? Because I need to know. I need to hear what you guys are thinking about this, because seriously, this shit is wild, and I think it's just it's getting deep, and it's only gonna get worse.